All right. Hi, folks. It is that time again. This week snuck up on me for various reasons. I unfortunately, did not manage to put a storytelling stream. Hi, don't put me on pizza. Hello. Yay, welcome. I didn't manage to get a storytelling stream into this week. But getting a tarot stream in. One stream is better than no streams. Yes. And I had jury duty for the first time in my life at the beginning of this week on Tuesday. And so I was really hesitant to schedule anything for the rest of the week because I had no idea if I would be put on a trial and have to be at the courthouse from 8:30 to whenever in the evening and blarg. I didn't want to plan things and have to cancel them, and then it was Wednesday and they didn't want me for the jury. Surprise, surprise. Not a surprise. And so here I am. Yay! I am happy to be here with all y'all. So tonight we are continuing to progress through the major arcana. Last week we talked about structure a lot with, okay, so don't put me on pizza. It wasn't really a surprise. The trial I was being considered for was they didn't even pull me up to question me because they draw names randomly and call those jurors up and decide if they want them before calling more. But if I had gotten up there, I'm pretty sure they would have said no, because they were like immediately excusing folks who had overly strong feelings about the issues around the case. Not, I say overly, by their standards overly strong. And the case was about an arrest that had happened in conjunction with a protest around North Carolina's HB2, which was a really awful bill that presented itself as protecting the children's, but was really just horrendously discriminatory against trans and gender non-conforming folks. And I have a lot of feelings about that. That's something that's very important to the health and safety of a lot of my friends. And even if trespassing at the General Assembly during a protest isn't technically legal, I can't say that I think it's wrong. So they wouldn't have wanted me anyway. But I had no idea. So anyway, here I am. Here we are. We're going to talk. Last week we talked about structure with the fours of the minor arcana. This week we're talking about conflict, because we're at the fives. So last week we talked a little bit about how the fours, thinking of it as kind of the four legs of a table or four legs of a chair. Yes, appropriate rabbit trail for this episode, definitely. Ooh, yeah, we'll get back to that. We'll get back to that pizza. Four walls of a house, four legs of a chair, structures. How four tends to be a stable structural number for us, and the different ways that manifests. So moving from 4 to 5, you take your stable structure and you throw in a wild card. And I'm sure we're all familiar with, hi Cacophony, hello Raiders, welcome Raiders. Welcome, the Rainbow Cacophony. Hello, hello. That is a beautiful assortment of rainbow mallets here. Hi Crafty, hi Bewitchcraft, hi Vladrek, hi Cacophony. Yay! Thank you so much for coming over here. I had a lovely time at your stream, and I was sorry to duck out early. Well, thank you for that follow, Vladrek. That's wonderful. I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, we're just getting ready to get started. And for those of you who may not have been to one of these before, right now in my tarot streams, I'm working my way through the minor arcana of the tarot deck, which is the part of the tarot deck that's a little bit more like our playing card deck. They have numbers and they have suits, and as far as their meanings, they tend to talk about like everyday stuff. Good, bad, easy, hard, but everyday stuff. So, working our way through those, one number a week. Last week we were on the 4s, this week we're on the 5s. So strap in, it's gonna get conflicted. So let me switch over to my tarot cam. And we will dive right in. How about it? So, again, for those of you who may not have been to one of these streams before, I like to do these in kind of a comparative art way, which both allows me to show off my pretty decks and talk about some of the different ways that the same card can be seen and interpreted. So I'll always lay these out in the same way. So just so you know, the decks you're seeing here, this is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. It's probably what you think of if you're thinking of a tarot deck or the standard tarot deck. Cacophony! Hello, hello. Such a good stream. Such a good stream. And oh, I'm so sorry. I think everyone in here knows everyone else, or at least knows of everyone else. But you should go, if you're not following these people, please go follow all these people. They're excellent. Oh no, no exploding bladders. Ugh. Ignore the stream elements thing. That's for my storytelling streams, and I keep forgetting to disable it. Ignore it. Chat away, and I will chat away. Anyway, so the one closest to the camera here is going to be, I'm sorry, Cacophony, I need to give you and Crafty mod swords, and I will do that later. I promise. I'm so sorry. Right, Rider-Waite-Smith deck, standard tarot deck, best known. This one over here is going to be the Thoth deck, created by Crowley. I'm so sorry, Cacophony. I will get you one. I keep forgetting because most of the time I'm so low-key that I don't need a lot of modding. But thank you. I appreciate the effort a lot. So this is the Thoth deck. It's it tends to be darker and some pretty intense imagery, a very different take than the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but still it's been around for several decades, and as these things go, has become relatively traditional. So different but still traditional-ish take. This is the Wooden Tarot deck, which is a very new indie deck. It's pretty minimal, but also pretty cool. I like it because it's so completely different. And then this one up here is the Numinous Tarot deck, which is also an indie deck, and it's very warm, it's very approachable, and yeah, I like doing it last because it tends to tie things together. So, diving right in, we're starting with the Five of Swords, and so, like I said, the fives tend to be about conflict, a wrench in the works, that fifth thing messing up the structure of the four, right? So here we've got three people. This guy looks to me like the epitome of the smug white dude who has just, beaten his internet opponents into dismayed submission in an argument. That is what this looks like to me. Like, he has... don't put me on pizza. Yeah, this is picking up swords after a battle, and I think a key here is, like, he has more than he can pick up. He has more than he can carry. The swords to me, because remember, swords as a suit, the suit of swords, tend to be about air, tend to be about our brains, our intellect, our thoughts. So this isn't like a bar brawl. This isn't a knockdown, drag-out conflict. This feels passive-aggressive to me. This feels self-righteous. I need to be right. I need these swords, not because I need these swords, but I need you not to have them. The acquisitiveness of, I can't have my belief system assaulted. I know I'm right, and you have to recognize that I'm right, because maybe I'm more fragile than I think I am. Yeah, Pizza, I think he's collecting swords as trophies. And because if he can get other people's swords, then clearly he's the best. He's right. This is his game. And when I look at this, when I identify with this guy, I get the feeling of that brief, like, good, bad satisfaction of, I owned you. I got you. I won. Which is never as satisfying as I think it should be. Especially if I played dirty to get it. When I look at this and I'm like, no, I'm in these guys' position, I always think about just how frustrating it is to engage with someone like this, who insists on being right no matter what. And, doesn't really care if they're actually right, as long as they've beaten me down. So, verbal conflict of ideas, and that sort of self-righteousness are all things that I associate with this. In the Thoth deck, the emphasis goes from the guy in the foreground here in that kind of smug victory to straight out defeat. The emphasis moves from what's foregrounded here to what's backgrounded here, to the folks who've been beaten down, who've been defeated. All the swords are, pointed in on each other, coming into a central point. And to me, I don't know how much you can tell, but they look pretty beaten up and wonky. Like they've really been through it in this battle, whatever it was. And to me, this still focuses on, you were defeated in an argument. You were defeated, your idea was shot down. Your theoretical project. So the inverted pentacle is the triumph of matter over spirit. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a bad thing. With the triumph of matter over mind. Because sometimes we don't need our brains to run the whole show, right? But here, this is saying that whatever was in your head, whatever your idea was, nope, it got crushed by circumstance or by someone else or, by something else. That idea defeated. That project not going anywhere. And to me, there's less. This feels less hostile and smug than this interpretation. Yeah. There could definitely be a, depending on the rest of the yes, those were visions. And it was less about defeat than disbelief, right? And there could, depending on the context, this could definitely be a Cassandra card. Don't put me on pizza. That's a fine observation. But it would be contextual. Because people can believe you. They might even believe... I have not story timed about her. I have not yet. I'm trying not to do like Greek, back to back. But, who knows? This feels less hostile, less self-righteous, less invested in a particular outcome, and more, this didn't work for whatever reason. This idea isn't panning out. This project isn't happening. Nope. And sometimes, usually that sucks, but it's not always all terrible. Sometimes you need to be clear on, okay, this is down the chute, so you can move on. Which leads us to this card in the Wooden Tarot. I don't know if you can see exactly what's going on here. It's a little blurry. But we've got a blue jay, or bluebird, perched on the nest with 5 eggs in it. And 3 of those eggs are cracked open. So right away, this has a little bit more of this has a very intentional feel, because I look at this and I see, oh, that bird broke open those 3 eggs. That bird said, no, these 3 eggs aren't happening. So it feels intentional. We're back to something very intentional. And we're back to something pretty ruthless. Maybe not hostile, maybe not malevolent, but ruthless. To me, this feels a little bit about, this feels a little bit about, it feels similar to the 5 of Cups, the way the 5 of Cups usually feels, except much more about choice in your losses, choosing what losses to take, choosing which things to break open and which to let grow. Now, I might be interpreting this card totally wrong. Maybe something else came along and pecked these open, but the bird is here. The circumstantial evidence points to the bird. All right? Right, crafty. So this feels very different. It feels much more about, okay, which of my ideas can I actually give my time and energy to? Which of my relationships, which battles can I pick? And which bridges do I need to burn? And in divination, that kind of bears out for me, that inflection of this. So it's still talking about, right? This bird pulls no punches. All right. That is a pointy little beak there, and he is unafraid to use it. And yeah, so this feels borne out in divination when it comes up. It's like, okay, no, you have to choose, and it's not going to be a comfortable choice. But again, it does tend to be about balancing or getting a hold on out of balance, out of control ideas or projects or theories or discussions of situations, those kinds of things. So still kind of in the plumes, swords area, but again, a very different take on that. And finally, the Numinous Tarot version, 5 of Bells. We've got, as it says in the book, Mr. Corporate here with his 3 bells that he's got control of, and the 2 that he's pulling up from these poor folks who, on first glance, look like they may be members of groups that are marginalized to some extent or another under, hetero-patriarchal capitalism. So this take on it is very clearly about ideological greed and oppression. The ideas and systems of ideas that say, I need all of this. Yeah, I think that's absolutely part of it. Don't put me on pizza. If it's a bad idea, you're to blame. If it's a good idea, it was all me. But also, I need your bells so that I can create more jobs. Or I need your bells because you don't know how to use them anyway. You don't know how to make good use of them anyway. Or you're doing things with the bells that I don't approve of. So I'm going to, say that insurance companies don't have to cover those particular bells. So the bells here, again, we're still in the realm of thought, intellect, ideas. Here, this feels a little bit more about ideology, intellectual resources. And so by wanting to control the dominant narrative and wanting to take away these folks' voices. Here, I would see it more as voice than strictly ideas. Wanting to make sure that only certain voices are heard and respected, and making sure that those overpower everything else is really the thrust of this card. And this clearly taps into more societal things, but it can still be about, relationships or ourselves. Going back to the wooden tarot take, which voices do we allow, or do the powers that be allow? Which voices do we allow in ourselves? What voices do we allow in our relationships? What voices do we allow in our legal process? How do we choose? What do we suppress or toss out? So that's Those are the questions that we're asked to think about here. Yeah. And y'all, don't put me on pizza is doing an awesome job, as they always do, of and I'm sorry, pizza, I do not remember what particular pronouns you prefer, but if something other than they, please correct me. Awesome. Yay. Is doing a great job of asking questions, but please feel free to jump in as well. Everyone is welcome to ask questions, and it's a party. So yeah, intellectual conflict, ideological conflict in the swords. Moving along to the Five of Pentacles, or discs. So, yeah, don't put me on pizza. What's up? I have delicious cider tonight. I would like to let y'all know. It's really tasty. Don't Put Me on Pizza says, this feels like a place where I can actually look at things and try to interpret them myself. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it might not be the most ideal because, I'm doing the yakking and throwing my own interpretations out there, but I love when you respond with your own too. And please don't let my interpretations overshadow yours. Oh, well, thank you. It means a lot to me that this is a safe space for that. A good space for that. And I love hearing y'all's interpretations, what you see, what you feel. Because I am not the expert. I am just the person who decided that I wanted to come yell about this on Twitch. Aw. Yay. Thank you, Crafty, too. Yay. Okay, now that I'm all blushy and warm and fuzzy, Five of Pentacles. Thank you, Cacophony. I'm going to turn the Stream Elements thing off, I promise. Maybe. Hopefully. Right. So, Five of Pentacles. Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Clearly, this is about the kind of conflict we see here is the conflict of not having enough. How do we provide for ourselves when we don't have the resources, when we don't have access to the structures that have the resources? This is a stained glass window. I am assuming this is a church. The implication here is, with as much kind of pseudo-Catholic imagery as shows up in this deck, if this is a Catholic church, this is an institution that is responsible for caring for those who don't have other resources, for caring for poor and destitute folks, for caring for these folks who are nonetheless out in the snow without adequate medical care, without adequate clothing or shoes, who are outside the system and can't find any way to access it. Yep, Crafty, exactly. There's warmth there, there's money there, someone paid to have that stained glass window installed. Now, maybe these folks can't bring themselves to go ask. Or maybe they've asked and been rejected. But either way, this talks about the moments, the times when we feel like, whether it's true or not, because we'll get into that a little more later, but the times when we feel like the systems are not there for us. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Twitch be twitching. To quote Cacophony. When the systems fail us, when we are outside of them, when they're not there for us and we need them, that's this moment. The Thoth deck. So, again, Crafty, we've got the inverted pentacle, you noticed? I think it's interesting that it's in both the Five of Swords and the Five of Discs here. Because here the implication is, the keyword is worry. The implication is that material lack, the material situation is overwhelming the intellect. That the material situation is such that it's all we can think about. That it's consuming our time, our energy, our efforts. That we have nothing left for anything but worrying about the logistics of survival. Or finances, or it might not be, as dramatic as survival, but worrying about logistics. So it's still matter over spirit, but with a different implication here, because it's about a lack of matter, lack of material resources. But the fact that the keyword is worry implies that this may or may not be accurate, right? The worry that's going on here, that's overwhelming the person looking at this, may or may not be representative of the situation. But the worries about it are real. The worries and the way that they're consuming this person's time and attention and energy are very real. And that's important to look at and acknowledge. So, the Wooden Tarot, Five of Bones. We have what looks to me like a shoulder bone. It's big and flat and ridgy, but I don't know for sure if that's what this is. But it's got 5 cracks or pieces coming out of it. So it's deeply structurally flawed, right? That wrench in the works, that 5th thing that upsets the structure. So this is no longer structurally sound. The systems are failing. The systems are failing us. They're not supporting. If this is a shoulder blade, it's not going to be good support for the other bones around it. So again, we have this conflict of the system's failing. The system is not providing what's needed. And here, this really says the structure is broken. These don't necessarily say that. There are possibilities there that may not be the whole structure is broken. This says the structure is broken and needs healing, needs repairing, needs replacing. Something of that. Because this is not tenable. So, a little more dramatic. And then, with the Numinous Tarot, we've got someone burning a pile of books outside a library to keep warm. Right, right, Crafty. Like, it's a little bit frustrating because it took me a goodly long time to... I had to really sit with it in a way that I don't with most of my decks in order to be like, okay, this is what they're doing here. But yeah, it packs a lot. Packs a lot in. And the creator didn't write a book with the deck. So you're totally on your own. But so here, this calls back to the folks outside the church in the cold. And it really gets at that feeling of desperation where we're alone in our problems. We don't have anyone else. We don't have anything else. We have to consume our own precious resources just to stay alive, just to get through. The part of the questions that this card asks, though, is that really the case? Is that really the case? Because the library is there and the lights are on. And unlike the church, pretty much all the librarians I know are badasses who would much rather let someone in on a snowy evening than see them burn their books. So part of what this implies, or at least part of the question it wants us to ask, is our desperation true? Is it borne out by reality? Are we missing? Have we not noticed? Have we not seen the structures that are there to support us? It encourages us to take a look around, to make sure that we haven't missed something. And to check in with our own desperation. Because we don't want to burn our own books unless we absolutely have to. So, from the perspective of the creators of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, maybe the church is intended as a universally welcoming place the way a library is, says Crafty Kaiji. Yes, I think part of it is at least that it should be. It should be, and something has gone wrong if the church isn't welcoming these people. Whether the thing that went wrong is the folks just not being able to find it in them to ask for help, which is legitimate. Totally legitimate. It's hard. It's hard to ask for help, even from structures that are meant to give it to us. And that's a possibility here too. Maybe this person doesn't feel like they deserve help. And has some major shame narratives going on there. But, or maybe there's something wrong with the system, like we said. Maybe there's something wrong with the church. The priest there is horribly uncharitable and has sent them away. So there's a lot of possibilities. But whatever it is, this asks us to think about what systems are there supposed to be? Have we checked them? Can we check again? Are we keeping ourselves? One of the things, are we keeping ourselves more out in the cold than we absolutely have to be? And sometimes the answer is yes, and I can't do anything about it right now. I can't make that move right now, and that's okay. But it's still a question that we're asked to look at. So, material conflict. Oh, identity. Why are you being so mean, Automod? Um. Oh, no, don't put me on pizza. Did not say thought. Thought. Gah. Automod is overly enthusiastic. Sorry. So you're asking, is the upside down pentacle on the fives a recurring theme? I did note that I thought it was interesting that it was on the Five of Swords and the Five of discs. It's also on the Five of Cups when we get there, but not on the Five of Wands. So we'll see how that pans out. So moving right along. To the Wands, Five of Wands. So, Swords, clash of ideas or ideology. Pentacles, conflict over physical resources, worry over physical resources, strife around physical resources. Wands, clash of wills. So, in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, got the Five of Wands. To me, this is the quintessential bar brawl card. When tempers flare, different people's wills are in conflict, and it goes over the top. Particularly because most bar brawls aren't the way I think about them. I've never, in fact, been in or really witnessed a bar brawl, let me be clear. But TV tells me that most of the time they're about insults and tempers getting lost, but usually not about life or death issues, like personal insults or personal conflicts. Yes, Crafty, this is not an argument about ideas. This is about who has the biggest dong or the biggest truck, or our team should have won the Sprots game, but your team did, and that's some bullshit. But on the other hand, this yes, pizza, by the time people are hitting each other, they have forgotten why they're hitting each other. But in a bigger sense, this is open conflict, right? This isn't the like passive aggressive or systemic, kind of slimy oppressive conflict that we see in the Five of Swords, right? This can also be, I and my husband have both had really long, hard days, and we're just getting the fuck on each other's nerves. And the thing that I've been pissed off about for however many weeks, but just hadn't had it in me to bring up, is suddenly an argument. But then we've got it out there. It's been said. It's over with. And I'm like, why was that such a big deal? Why didn't I just bring it up in the first place? But no, I had to explode and lose my temper a little bit. But now it's out there. Now it's done. So this is something that happens. The explosion, not exploding bladder, but explosion of will happens. The things get said, the blows get traded, the shouting happens, and then it's done. This is not a war card. This is a brawl or battle card, right? So, as opposed to, another thing about this is that it looks kind of chaotic, right? it is a melee. Everyone's just kind of in there waving their clubs and rawr. By contrast, the Toth take on this, the keyword is strife, which is, I don't know, it sounds more noble and organized than hitting each other with sticks. And the wands are also arranged in a much more orderly fashion. So to me, this still talks about open conflict of wills, but maybe with more planning. Maybe this feels closer to a pitched battle or a duel than bar brawl. Yeah, don't put me on pizza. From what I know about Game of Thrones, because I don't watch it, I like my fantasy less bleak than that. But from what I know about it, there's also a lot of intrigue. I think this is more about the moments when the intrigue breaks through into action, right? It's not about all the scheming that goes on behind the scenes. This is about the moments, the crux of when one character's will comes into conflict with another character's will, and what happens at that moment. But yes, this talks about a much more planned and structured approach to that kind of conflict. It feels to me. In the wooden tarot deck, hi, oh my apple pie, hello, thank you for joining us. Oh, yeah, Crafty, you've got the, so, a lot of the wands in the suit of wands in the Toth deck represent different, like, scepters or staves that would be granted or held at different levels of initiation in the OTO, in the Ordo Templo Orientis, I believe. The OTO or the Golden Dawn, I don't remember. Hi, Arctis Diablo, thank you. Oh, also ignore the stream elements thing. I keep meaning to turn it off. Welcome. We're making our way through the fives of the Minor Arcana. But yeah, so these, thank you. And like I said, I'm not a historian, but a lot of these are meant to be initiatory. Thank you, Arcturus. Are meant to be Golden Dawn, particular initiation, appropriate staves or scepters or dick sticks. So, and I am not even remotely Golden Dawn myself, so I don't remember which in particular, but there are definitely layers of meaning there based on the ones chosen. And yeah, there's a lot going on. There's I don't know if you can see the little red bit there is the Leo astrological sign, so it pulls on that I am the prettiest kitty in the whole house, my plans are the best plans, bow before me, respect my authority. And oh god, is that Jupiter? There's a planetary sigil up there too, and I'm blanking on which one that is. But anyway, yes, Crafty. There's a lot going on with this card. And I like that even the fire here, it's twiny and well organized. It's very symmetrical. Saturn. Thank you, pizza. Thank you. It's very twiny. It's very well organized. Clearly plans. It's only in the spaces between, only where it's meant to go. So it's very directed, very organized. Oh, good. Well, thank you. I appreciate the effort. So, in the wooden tarot, it's the Five of Stones, and the creator seems to find kind of stones and antlers interchangeable, which I'm still not sure that I totally grasp. But here we have, instead of 5 stones, antlers that are all tangled up in each other. So this, to me, evokes the idea of locking horns, locking antlers, that kind of head-on conflict. So again, open conflict feels a little bit more like bar brawl than yep, exactly, Crafty. Same bar brawl. Did you look at my dough? Did you look at my dough? Are you looking at my dough? Enough. Just like that. Precisely like that. So, tempers flare, antlers lock, great crash of the bucks in the forest, and then it's over. So again, not drawn out, not overly long or overly planned. And then the Numinous Tarot deck, where for once this kind of feels to me squarely in the middle of bar brawl, the scale of bar brawl to intrigues clashing. This feels very press conference. Antlers are an appropriate choice for cards that specifically need to evoke the masculine. Oh, yeah. Right, Crafty, that makes sense. And yeah, pizza and Arcturus. Yes, committee meeting, microphones. Tempers, look at these facial expressions here. Tempers are high. Resentments may be boiling over. There's only one unlit candle and 5 different flames, 5 different wills for what it's supposed to be doing. And I get the sense, particularly, I don't think it's just about this, but I get the sense here that each of these people came to this coven or committee meeting with a very particular idea about how this thing, whatever this thing represents, was going to go. They were very clear. They had their will all planned out, and they got there to find out that everyone else had equally strong ideas. And now everyone is upset because they want their flame to be the one that lights the group candle. They want their vision to be the direction for the group. And it feels like this is, 2 minutes away from actual argument, or like someone lunging for the candle and then everyone else lunging for the candle and the fire department being called. So to me, as usual, this one carries a lot of questions with it, such as, have I talked to other people about what their will for the situation is? Am I assuming that my will is the will of the group? Yes, absolutely. Don't put me on pizza. Absolutely. The background already looks like it's on fire. It's true. So thinking about, why am I so attached to this particular will? Is this particular vision worth going to bat for? And maybe it is. Maybe it is. Were there failures in communication that led us to this point? Should we break off and each do our own things if we all feel that strongly about it? So to me, this one carries a lot of questions with it. Asks us to do a lot of thinking about, well, why is my temper so high around this? Rather than rushing in and trying to be the first flame to the candle. So, finally, we come to the Five of Cups. We've got the Rider-Waite Smith. So moving from conflict of wills, different wills striving against each other, to a conflict of the heart, or strife, emotional strife. I always think of this as the spilled milk card. Yes, Crafty. It's a very powerful image. There's a very real loss here. It's even most of the resources you have here, most of the emotional resources. Arcturus, that's part of it, focusing on the loss instead of what one actually has. But I think it's important to note that there's a real loss. We have to grieve. So, like so many other cards, there are two or more, but there are at least two things that this card is saying. This says, yes, you lost something. That's real. That's true. It's also saying, remember that you still have something to draw on. Remember that all is not lost. And sometimes you can do both of those things at once, and sometimes you need to focus on what's been poured out, what's been lost to you, before you can turn back to what's there for you. But we can, you're right, Arcturus, we can get lost in our grief and only focus on what's lost, on what we don't have anymore. So it's an important reminder both ways. And our old friend in the Thoth deck, the inverted pentacle again. So here, the keyword for this one is disappointment, which jives with, although I feel like it's a not flippant, but lesser in scale take on the emotional reaction that this card provokes in me. Because, disappointment. Shake yourself off and move on. This feels like a very real emotional loss. But disappointment, it calls itself. So we've got a couple of wilting, petal shedding water lilies. Not super healthy, right? Got a lot of twiny stems or wire, and the cups all caught up in this. And if you notice, in most of the other cups cards in the Thoth deck, the cups have water in them or they're being filled with water. There's some sort of flow there. There's no flowing water here. There's, maybe it looks like some sluggish water as a base, but nothing in the cups. I don't see anything overflowing. Even here where we can see the stems running through the middle of this cup, there's no water. So these are empty vessels, which is a little bit different to me than spilled vessels, but empty vessels. So this to me feels like a lesser kind of emotional disappointment. This feels more like emotional barrenness. Looking at things and being unmoved. Like actual disappointment rather than loss. So it's a fairly different, distinct feeling for me. And then, so got sharp eyes, Crafty. Crafty noticed the Scorpio symbol right down here at the bottom. There's also Mars right up at the top. I'm not enough of an astrologer to really be able to answer that. My sense around Scorpio, based on the Scorpios I've known and what I know, or the little bit that I know, is that there's a little bit of, I feel like most of the Scorpios I've known deal with disappointment with distance, right? With, okay, this thing isn't working. Of course I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. Why wouldn't I be fine? And like I said, this is just my associations. There are whole books written about this tarot deck, and I have one on my wish list that I will someday get and read, and then maybe I'll do this again. but for the moment, it's mainly about my conjectures. I want to say, my very eager mother. So Mars is the fourth planet. Yes. Thank you for that follow, Arcturus. Sorry. I'm not really sure. That's the upshot. I'm not really sure why Mars is on the Five of Cups. If it were just that Mars is warlike and aggressive, then I would expect to see it on all the fives, but we didn't. So, I don't know. I'm sorry, Crafty. You ask wonderful questions, and I wish I had better answers for you sometimes. But thank you. Don't stop. So, Wooden Tarot. It's the Five of Blooms instead of Cups. But we see no flowers here, right? No flowers. 5 stumps. And the frontmost one is hollowed out. It's got a hole in it. I get the sense that that's not growing again. Maybe not. The others could. Who knows? So in some ways, this one feels even bleaker than the Rider-Waite-Smith. Like, it's not 3 stumps and 2 trees, or 3 stumps and a partially dead tree and 1 living tree. It's 5 stumps. But, I don't know. It looks to me, and I don't know if it'll come across on the thing, but it looks to me like there's moss in the tree stumps, which is life. It's much smaller. It's not the same life that got cut away, but it's life. It's something. And who knows? I have seen healthy-ish stumps sprout new branches from down here. Who knows? There's a possibility. But this one still feels much more dramatic. Like, maybe things didn't get uprooted for you, but everything got cut down to the stump. Everything got cut away. And that's rather more to deal with. Yeah. Ooh, good point, Arcturus. So Arcturus says in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, looks more like mourning a loss, which I agree with. The Wooden Tarot deck feels more like overuse of resources. I can see that. I feel like in an ecological sense, yes. In an emotional sense, since cups focus on emotions, yes, overuse of resources in the giving tree sense, right? In the not overusing external resources, but like cutting off parts of ourselves and giving it away. Or, right, this was the other thing. Or even kind of ruthlessly cutting away, relationships or sources of support. Like clear cutting our forest of relationships. Pushing people away indiscriminately. That kind of thing. Seems like it could be a possibility there as well. Depending on if you see cups as our own resources or the resources that we draw on and find in others. And as in so many things, I go both ways on that, depending on context. But thank you. That was a wonderful observation. I appreciate that. And yes, Crafty, it does seem pretty final. Yeah. So the Numinous deck here goes back pretty directly to the Rider-Waite-Smith interpretation. We've got this person weeping over their shattered vessels on the table and forgetting or not able to appreciate right now that they still have 2 beautiful whole vessels behind them. One of the things that I appreciate about this, that to me adds a little bit more punch even than the Rider-Waite-Smith card, is that we see the brokenness of the vessels. Not just that they've spilled, not just that they've lost whatever was in them, but that the vessels themselves are broken. Probably irretrievable, unless there's some huge repair work done. Maybe the materials can be recycled, maybe. But to me, this really gets at the feeling when a relationship is lost. The way that part of yourself, part of your heart feels shattered. Whether it's a friendship or a death or a romantic relationship. The way that grief feels when you realize that not only is that emotional energy not there anymore for you, but that person, the container, the other part of that relationship isn't there for you. And I appreciate that. I like that a lot about this interpretation. And I also like that the two intact vials are in front of a window, reminding us that not only, while we may need to retreat into our room, into our space, with our grief for a time, it's a reminder to connect back to what we still have, to connect back to the wider world, to help us finish healing. Then, along the same lines as the Thoth deck, we've got some wilting flowers up front. Again, the dying, the loss, which also tells me, flowers die. We die. Flowers die. This talks about the inevitability of loss as well. The fact that it's not always about, oh, I slipped, oh, I screwed up, or the glass couldn't handle the heat, or the potion I put into it ate away at it. Take those emotional metaphors however you will. But sometimes things just die. Sometimes time is up, and it doesn't suck less because of that. But it's true, it's sometimes not anyone's fault. Whether that's because of death or distance or whatever it might be. I like that acknowledgement that sometimes it's an organic process, as well as a natural kind of traumatic process. So yeah. So there are the fives. All the different kinds of conflict and strife that we see in the minor arcana. Thank y'all for hanging with me. Apparently I had a lot to say tonight, and y'all had some amazing questions, and I appreciate it immensely. Just in case everyone doesn't know everyone else, we'll shout out Cacophony and Arcturus. Do you stream? I don't think Not on Pizza streams. Is Oh My Apple Pie's still here. There we go. Yay! So, shout outs for, and Bewitchcraft, you're still here. Do you stream? Do you stream? I don't know. Just in case. And yes, if you would like to join us, I have my own little mini channel on the Social Justice Bards Discord. just pop in there and tell us where you're coming from on the welcome channel. I post my stream schedule there, and I'm happy to answer questions. I mean, I'm happy to answer questions here and now, obviously, so go right ahead, Pizza. But I'm also happy to answer questions on the Discord. You can direct message me there. Yeah. Yeah, Pizza, what's up? About swords and bells and thoughts and ideas. So, while Pizza's thinking, I do have my schedule up. Oh, right, I didn't shout out Crafty. In case you don't already follow Crafty Kaiju, you should follow Crafty Kaiju. Yes, Pizza. I did talk some about the choice of the creator of the Numinous Tarot choosing to use bells for swords as a suit signifier in the stream on the Aces. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Are you familiar with what the ace in that deck looks like? Because it's really cool, and it does do a fairly good job of showing off, I think, why they chose that symbol. So, you know, air as an element is about, well, in the classical Western system of the elements, air is about intellect, it's about brains. What is brain? About wit, things like song, speech, laughter, inspiration, all those things. So it has an association with voice and sound that I think resonance, that I think using bells as the symbol gets across nicely. And it also, well, I flipped through the whole deck and it's evading me. So maybe you don't get to see that tonight, Pizza. Sorry. But it also, oh, there we are. Cool. So here's the ace. And the focus really is on the resonance of the sound. To me, this also conjures up the idea of the logos, or the word of creation. Thinking in Genesis, when God speaks things into being, thinking in the Chronicles of Narnia, when Aslan sings the world into being, thinking of in Hindu traditions, the sound of creation, the way that sounds and words have power. Yes. Yeah, that's, oh, sorry. Yeah, that's the air triangle, the air symbol. And there are some other little ring of air symbols up near the tip of the handle too. And so it demilitarizes and reduces kind of the violent aspect of swords. Swords characterize air as a cutting thought and focus that cuts through the bullshit or the illusions or whatever it is, and that's useful. But sound can the chime of a bell can cut through conversation. The right sounds can cut through the noise in our heads. The right words can cut through our own bullshit. Right, swords are not gentle, and bells aren't necessarily gentle. Like, I have a friend who gets migraines from singing bowls sometimes. And yes, pizza, exactly. As anyone with anxiety or depression or other jerk brain stuff knows, thoughts are often not gentle. But I like the bell. I like bells for intellect, for voice, for inspiration. It also degenders it some, because swords are very traditionally masculine, dick stand-in, because brains are masculine, apparently. So choosing bells helps degender, or take away some of that binary gender issue there. So yeah, that's some of the thoughts and some of my experience with reading the bells instead of the swords. So yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I did just want to say I will be doing a storytelling stream on Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what I'm telling yet. I haven't decided. I have a couple of ideas. Thank you, Crafty. Thank you as always. I always appreciate your presence. And I appreciate all y'all's presence. Thank you, Arcturus. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Pizza, for your questions and thoughts. Thank you, Oh My Apple Pie, for being here. Thank you to everyone else that I may have missed. But yeah, please join me on Sunday for storytelling stream. At some point in the next few weeks, Crafty gets to name the topic for another storytelling stream, or get me to do a reading for him on stream. Either one, because he is my beloved subscriber. Well, I mean, you get a story for Crafty. You get a story for every time you subscribe, for every resub. So, be thinking about yours for this month. And I will be doing my next tarot stream, where we'll be in the 6s on the 25th at 7 p.m. Eastern. So now, let's see if anyone else is on. Ooh, oh, y'all, do we want to go watch a webcomic artist who does myth comics draw, or do we want to go listen to Kitty Actually? Because I'm torn. Both of these sound like really good options. Crafty, I wish I did too, but we're working on it. And someone could always give you a suggestion if they wanted to. Hint, hint. Or you could gift your suggestion to someone. All right. I think, because I have not gotten to see any of Rachel's streams yet, we are going to go raid Rachel Smythe, who draws Lore Olympus. So I hope you'll come along with me. Here is our raid call for our tiny, tiny little raid. And I hope I get to see you Sunday for stories, next Tuesday for tarot. Thank you all so much for being here. It was lovely. Well, 5 is not so tiny, but still. I